Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. We're looking at the astrology of the third week of November. So let's get started. I believe that starts with the 13th, but let's see what my notes say. All right. 12th. I was close. So when I do these week aheads, I look from Sunday to Saturday. Okay. And nothing happens until we get to Monday. Nothing significant happens. So let's get started there. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. So we'll start with Monday, November 13th. We have a new moon in the sign of Scorpio. This is a 21 degrees of Scorpio. This is an interesting symbol. We're going to get into this a lot deeper, but let me just go over the symbol that 21 degrees of Scorpio talks about. It says, obeying his conscience, a soldier resists orders. The readiness to face results of a refusal to follow authoritarian patterns of an aggressive society. Very apt. Very apt symbol for the time we find ourselves in. We also have on Monday, we have the sun making an opposition to Uranus. As with all oppositions, oppositions are the fruition of a cycle that begins at the initial conjunction. This opposition of the sun and Uranus are occurring at 22 degrees with the sun in Scorpio and Uranus in Taurus. This is the halfway point of the sun's Sun-Uranus synod that began on May 9th at 19 degrees of Taurus. That day vibrated to a 21-3, which is the world card. So there is, in the initial conjunction of these two planets, we had the promise of something to be manifested. And so we will see what will be manifested when this day does finally roll around. On Wednesday, we have the 15th, we have Mercury making a sextile to Venus. This is occurring at 8 degrees of Sag in Libra. Sextiles are opportunistic. They're mentally stimulating. They stimulate communication. They stimulate learning, all the sort of mental things in the positive, in learning something about something or learning something from somebody who knows perhaps more on a subject than you do. This is especially potent because it vibrates on a 33-6 day, and the 33-6 in the Tree of Life sits in the Sephiroth of a Venus. So we know that this is an important Venus aspect. And we do have Mercury over here. So we're looking at Sag and we're looking at Libra. And when there's a sextile between these two planets. So this is an opportunity activating this path here, which is the path of Mars and the path of the Tower card. So this is around illumination and understanding in a situation, perhaps in a crisis situation. It says, learn to trust other people's assessment and to judge life more on concrete facts and less on moral pronouncements, which tend to be very colored by self-justification and avoidance. So this is about like looking at the facts as they're there, right? And we do have Venus in a more powerful position than Mercury. Mercury is not, Sagittarius is not considered an easy energy for Mercury, mainly because Mercury likes details and Sag couldn't care less about details. They like big picture stuff, right? So big sometimes that they can't even see the details. And then we have Venus in Libra, and Venus is very powerful in Libra because it's one of the signs that she rules. And so in a way, Venus has a little bit of an upper hand in this communication that we find. On the next day, which vibrates to a 34/7, that would be Thursday the 16th, we have Venus make an inconjunct to Jupiter. There is always at 9 degrees of Libra Taurus. With this aspect, there is an inclination towards overindulgence and exhaustion that stems from relying on external sources for happiness. This is like looking for happiness outside of yourself, rather than cultivating self-worth from within. Recognize the difference between genuine self-confidence and a validation from others is crucial. So it's more about being self-confident and learning that lesson and not having to go to other people and say, how am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? Right? Okay. Friday the 17th, we have Mars make a lovely trine to Neptune. Now, Mars and Neptune generally are not the best of bedfellows because Mars is about direction and Neptune is about fog. But sometimes we can have aspects such as trines in this case, and sometimes sextiles that have enough stability within the aspect itself that allows the energy of Mars and Neptune to flow freely. And this opens us up psychically, it opens us up to inspirations. It's as if the engine is running and being run by the soul, so to speak, or by spirit, a little bit more spirit here with Neptune. We also have on the same day Neptune, the Sun trine Neptune. Now Mars and Neptune are moving together, as we know, right? This occurs at the same degree as Mars trine Neptune. That's 25 degrees of Scorpio Pisces. We will look at those degrees. And then Saturday the 18th, we have the Sun make its conjunction to Mars at 26 degrees of Scorpio. This is the start of a 2-year synodic cycle. 26 degrees of Scorpio, the Sabian symbol for that is American Indians making camp after moving into a new territory. The ability to adjust swiftly to a new situation by tuning into its requirements. So there really is, in a way, this energy of going by the seat of your pants this month. And I think we sort of have to work with that energy. Now, as we can see, the parts of the tree of life that are getting activated this month starts here in Gabura. This is the Sephirth of Mars. Okay, this is the new moon, the energy of the new moon and the sun opposition, the sun opposite Uranus. The exciting thing about the fact that the new moon falls on this vibration is that the new moon is in Scorpio and Mars is one of the co-rulers of Scorpio, and Mars is in Scorpio. So this is very powerful. It's a very powerful new moon for transformation. So wherever it may fall in your chart is where you're being asked to transform, a death and a rebirth energy here. The sun opposing Uranus on that day gives us a perspective on the possibilities of a different kind of future. We have on the 15th, which is Wednesday, vibrating to the 33/6, we have that Mercury sextile Venus. As I said, it's sitting here energetically. This is the third. This is the solar plexus. So the energies this week are in the throat and the solar plexus, the sacral, and then the root chakra. So the issues coming up will be survival issues, will be issues around security, will be issues around getting what you want out of life, and also being open to the promptings of spirit, which happens in the throat chakra. It is where divine will works through us. So and if we align our speech with our intuition and our heart, then we come from a more holistic place, a healthier place. So we want to come from our best, the best sense of ourselves, so to speak. On Thursday, we have the 34-7 vibration. This is the Venus in conjunct Jupiter. Happiness is an inside job. You can't expect it to come from outside of yourself. That's a mind game, perhaps. We're in that 34-7. On Friday, we're here in Yesod. Yesod is the Sephiroth of the moon, and we have these trines of Mars and the sun to Neptune. Very, very powerful. In fact, the new moon in Scorpio is activating this week as far as the tree of life. What's going on with the moon this week? We have the new moon in Scorpio. So that's sort of vibrating out. And then we have Mars and Neptune and the sun and Neptune making these trines. Very, very powerful. It's in fact, Mars is here. Okay, hold on one second. Mars is here. And it is trining Neptune. Neptune is found up here in Kether. And then we have Neptune trining the sun, which actually activates this path. This is the path of the high priestess. So it's very possible that we will get secrets will be revealed or something. There'll be a revelation of sorts at this time. And then we have on Saturday, we vibrate to the 36-9 vibration. This is the Mars conjunct Scorpio found here in Malkuth. The Sun-Mars conjunction, this is the Sephiroth of the Sun, this is the Sephiroth of the Mars. And the path that connects those two is the path of cosmic justice. It's the 11, it's the justice card. So whenever we have a Sun-Mars conjunction, and then a year later, a Sun-Mars opposition, what's getting activated is this path right here. So it's as if Mars is our instincts, our desires, and the sun illuminates them. So the sun will always illuminate a desire with this combination. Now, back in 2015, this occurred at 23 degrees of Gemini. And it was conjunct Donald Trump's sun. And we know what happened after 2015. This one actually conjuncts Joe Biden's Venus, I think, and his sun. So we have this activating Joe Biden's chart. And so we'll see how that manifests itself over the next 2 years. Okay. All right. Let's get started with the actual charts here. All right. So this is the new moon in Scorpio. Obeying his conscience, a soldier resists orders, the readiness to face the results of a refusal to follow authoritarian patterns of aggressive society. Keyword here is inner freedom. It would take a lot of inner freedom in order for somebody who was a soldier, who was taking orders, who was trained to take orders, to allow his conscience to guide him as opposed to the orders that he's given. That we free ourselves from the need to have an authority figure telling us what to do, right? But there's also the backlash of that. Chances are, if you're not listening to those who know it all, right, who tell us what to do, there's usually consequence for that. So it takes a lot of bravery. So this new moon is going to take bravery because it's going to ask us to get out of a comfort zone. It's going to ask us to do something that we normally probably wouldn't go near. But you see, because of your conscience and because of what your heart and your soul says to you. Remember, Scorpio is a Pluto energy, and Pluto is the soul. Okay. Mars, as the co-ruler of Pluto, is also in Scorpio, powerfully placed in Scorpio. It's placed at 23 degrees of Scorpio. A rabbit metamorphoses into a nature spirit, the raising of animal drives to a higher level. You know, the soldier deals with animal drives, and then we're being asked to raise that up to our conscience. And we don't have to go by the rules that require us to go against our own nature. We also have Pluto as a co-ruler of Scorpio. So I like to look at both of those, see where they're at in the chart. And of course, Pluto is in Capricorn, as it's been since 2008, except for that brief time last year. This year, when it popped into Aquarius, it's going to pop into Aquarius again, where it's going to stay for about 20 years. So it's going to do a lot of popping in Aquarius. But right now, it's at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and the Sabian symbol for that is a woman reading tea leaves. And so this is an ability to see the significance of things in a larger perspective, right? The ability to see the signature of hidden meaning in every occurrence, drawing one's attention. So the macro reflects the micro, the micro reflects the macro. We are seeing what we're seeing in the world is what we have within ourselves, and we need to come to terms with that so that we can make better choices, perhaps, and have less suffering and go by our conscience and not just because somebody told us to do it, right? This is really a process in a way of spiritual individuation. So let's look at the chart. We have this is a chart for the United States. We have a Libra rising, with the South Node right there in the first house, the North Node in the seventh. When the North Node's in the seventh in Aries, you really are here to learn to be an individual within your relationships. It's like the anti-codependent thing. Now, of course, this is for the U.S. So who is the U.S. codependent with? You know, some might say Israel, Netanyahu, not so much Israel as Netanyahu. Now, I don't know by the time this happened, by the time this comes out, because I'm doing this, of course, before the actual day, we'll see how this manifests itself. But there's definitely this sense of people who would normally be expected to follow the rules do not follow the rules. Now, we have Mars in the conjunction to this. The sun and the moon are balsamic to Mars right now, meaning that the moon later today will make a conjunction to that Mars. But then a few days later, we have the sun make the conjunction to Mars at 26 degrees of Scorpio. So the sun is moving towards Mars and ending the last synodic cycle that occurred. The last synodic cycle occurred at 16 degrees of Libra. So it was about how, and Mars and the sun is not powerfully placed in Libra, and Mars is not powerfully placed in Libra. The sun and Mars don't really like so much being in the energy of Libra, because the sun is about sort of individuality, and Mars is about your desires, what do I want to do? And Libra keeps telling us we have to consider other people. We have to consider other people. So it's been a real lesson. And as we come to the end of this synodic cycle, we are extracting meaning from that, knowing that we do have to, in fact, take other people into consideration. It's not just about what we want. And of course, here in America, we've had a real crash course in what it's like to be around somebody who could give a shit about anything but themselves. Okay? Excuse my language. Hopefully I don't get pinged for that. From Jersey, what can I tell you? So we have this conjunction to Mars, balsamic to Mars. We also have an opposition to Uranus. The next day or so, we have the same day, same day we have the opposition to Uranus, waking us up to something, right? What do we need to be awoken to? Waked? We'll talk about it when we get there, because that's the next slide. We also have a trine to Neptune, and I like this trine to Neptune because what it brings into this very intense scorpionic energy with Mars opposite Uranus is this energy and an opportunity for really true soul healing to happen. What we are seeing in the outer world is not for naught. It's part of this healing of the soul of humanity. And we have to give thanks and be grateful for those souls who have chosen to take their part in this. We're all working on this together. As much as we would prefer to think we have nothing to do with it, we have everything to do with it. Okay. Now we can see that this vibration is the Five of Wands. So we know that there's a lot of tumult, even within the energy of this. And this card and this vibration is found in Gabura, which is as you sow, so shall you reap. This is the place of instant karma. So when you do something on a Gabura day, you will get results right away. Right away. All right. So now we're looking at the opposition, which occurs on the same day. So we're still in that Gabura energy. And we have the sun opposing Uranus. Now, as I said, these oppositions are the fruition of what was planted at the conjunction. Sun conjunct Uranus is about illumination. It's illumination of the future, illumination. It can be crisis, but it's an awakening. It's saying, where do you need to wake up? And so that initial conjunction occurred at 19 degrees of Taurus, a new continent rising out of the ocean. This conjunction occurred on May 9th, 2023, vibrating to that 21.3 vibration. And 21.3 is a Saturn vibration, and it's about manifestation. And what's manifesting? A new continent rising out of the ocean. So this is reminding us that there's a new world. We're in a new world right now, right? So now, and the keynote for that particular vibration, that particular image, is the surge of new potentiality after the crisis. It says the symbol need hardly be the symbol need hardly be commented upon when the mind has emptied and the light has been called upon to purify the consciousness, freed from its attachments and contaminations. A new release of life can emerge out of the infinite ocean of potentiality, the virgin space. What will it be used for? Now the sun, we find at 22 degrees of Scorpio, hunters shooting wild ducks. The socially accepted release of an individual or a group's aggressive instincts in opposition. Remember, the opposition is where we see two ends. We see this is the broadest perspective we're going to see about this new sort of new Atlantis, we could call it, right? Rising out of the ocean. White dove flying over troubled waters. The spiritual inspiration that comes to the individual in overcoming a crisis. So there's both a realization that we have a need to do something with our aggressive tendencies. They can't be just left unchecked, right? They need to be worked on and worked through. At the same time, we have to be connected to our spiritual purpose, right? The white dove flying over troubled waters. It's going to take that. It's going to take understanding our animal nature that we see as we shoot these wild ducks, and also understand our spiritual nature in order to create this new reality, this new continent raising out of the ocean. All right. On Wednesday, we have Mercury sextile Venus. And the interesting thing about this sextile is that it actually is part of a Yod configuration to Jupiter. So this is powerful in itself, with Venus powerfully placed in Libra and Mercury in Sag, not as powerfully placed, but still the sextile is there. This sextile is actually, let's see, the sextiles between the inner planets have like a unique sort of sextile profile. because they can really only be sextile each other, or I think semi-square each other. They can never get further apart than that. So they're always within this conversation of the sextile. And of course, Venus is about love and relationship and what's important to you and what you value and the sort of magnetic attraction that comes with Venus. And and Mercury is the way our mind works. And in Sagittarius, it's broad-minded. So this is a question about broad-mindedness, how the other half lives, and how fair is it? How much, how much peace do these people get? Whatever it is, whatever you're talking about. And this is the conversation, and it makes a yod to Jupiter. Now, I just want to talk about the yod to Jupiter. Jupiter at the head of a yod denotes an expansion of consciousness, broadening the social vision and enriching moral development in a reflective manner. So this is an opportunity for us to be better people, to do things better. And I feel it. I feel this surge of compassion and enough is enough kind of energy out there. And a lot of November is going to be about that. The literal poop hit the fan in October, and November is going to be a balancing out of a lot of this stuff. And it's not going to be easy to see, and it's not going to be easy to bear witness to. But we must always remember to stay within the highest expression and keep love and compassion in our hearts while keeping our feet firmly on the ground, realizing that there is a problem to be solved here. Communication of the heart and mind. Mercury at 8 of Sag. Within the depths of the earth, new elements are being formed. Another symbol of something new being born. This is an exciting time. Sometimes it feels like you just want to just put the covers back over your head. It's understandable. But this is an exciting time of rebirth, new birth, okay? And letting go of the old and healing. It's going to take healing. If you have a boil, it has to get out into the air. It has to burst. It has to show itself in all its stink before the healing can happen. And that's really what's going on now. The boils are all being popped. And it's easy enough to get overwhelmed by the smell. But ultimately, we have to attend to the wound. We can't cover it up anymore. We don't want to bring that energy into the new, do we? Do we want to redo that? We want to heal it, and it's going to take a scab, and then it's going to take some time, and people will pick at the scab, the usual stuff, like when you're a kid, you get a boo-boo on your knee, and your mother says, don't pick the scab, but you can't help yourself. You pick the scab, and you pull the scab off, and then there's the skin is still not completely healed, it's raw, and it creates another scab. So there's going to be some of that scabby stuff going on as well. So this symbol within the depths, new elements being formed, the alchemical fire, which both purifies and transforms the very substance of a man's inner life. A lot of symbology about the inner life, no? Communicating with Venus at 8 of Libra, a blazing fireplace in a deserted home. The need to realize that even through the emptiest hours, a spiritual power is ever ready to welcome and warm up the wayward consciousness returning to center. This is like the prodigal son. We can return to spirit. We can return to our hearts. We can heal what ails us. It's going to take a change in vision. It's going to take a change in perspective. Jupiter at the head of a yod. Powerful stuff happening. I mean, every time I do these, I'm like, it just gets more and more powerful and more obvious in a way. On Wednesday, the 15th, that's a 33-6 day. It's a Netzach, the Sephiroth of Venus day, the 7 of Wands in the tarot, standing up, standing up for yourself, right? We have Mercury making the waning in conjunct to Jupiter. This is part of the yod. We can still see the yod is in play here. This aspect compels us to probe deeply within ourselves and strengthen the awareness, the implications of relating to others. How do we get along? It's time to get along, guys. It's time to talk to one another. It's time to stop the fighting and start the healing. We must learn to trust other people's assessment and to judge life more on concrete facts and less on moral pronouncements, which tend to be very colored by self-justification and avoidance. And I could just put one big fat orange face on that if you want me to. I just made my husband. My husband just said Garfield. I don't know if this guy likes lasagna as much as Garfield. I like lasagna. Oh, we're having chicken. I got excited there about lasagna for a second. Thursday, the 16th of November. This is the 34-7 vibration. This is on the Tree of Life in Hod, which is the Sephiroth of Mercury. We have Venus make the inconjunct to Jupiter, and we're still in the Yod. So we have Venus and Mercury make their sextile, and then they each make their inconjuncts to Jupiter. And inconjuncts always require adjustments, right? It's always require adjustments. I have a yod in my chart. Actually, I have more than one yod. I think I have like 2 or 3 yods in my chart. And people who have a lot of yods in their chart have to make a lot of adjustments in their life. And I've been a chiropractor for 35 years. So I've made not just adjustments in my life, but physically adjusted people to help them get unstuck. And really, that's what we're doing. We're getting unstuck from the old paradigm. There's still things that are hanging on, and we have to work through them. This aspect points to the necessity for mental adjustments that allow us greater competency, efficiency, orderliness, and perfection. An inclination towards overindulgence and exhaustion stems from relying on external sources for happiness rather than cultivating self-worth from within. Recognizing the difference between genuine self-confidence and validation from others is crucial. It doesn't matter if people like you or like what you're saying. If it needs to be said, it needs to be said. Eventually, they'll see the truth in it. The closer it is to the bone, the more you get pushback, right? So know you're getting close when they start like fighting you back. Now, this vibration, this 34-7 vibration, is the Eight of Wands. And as we know, when we do the tarot, the Eight of Wands is about information coming in, right? It's like after information, after information, after information. And part of the challenge of this card, and part of the challenge when you're in this vibration, is being able to order all of that information coming in through your intuitive and psychic senses. So we can expect lots and lots of new information, lots of downloads coming in at this time. So if you're so inclined, get your little pen and paper, meditate, record, whatever you have to do. Get the information that's coming in, because it's all going to help us in this new world that we are birthing. Friday the 17th, Mars trines Neptune. A flow of compassionate action. Boy, don't we need this. I'm hoping that this is part of the aid that's going to be going to places that need the aid, whether it be Israel or Palestine or the Ukraine or Afghanistan. And it's not just the United States giving aid, of course, but it's the whole world sort of working together to solve these very terrible problems that we find ourselves in, and maybe to put the brakes on some of these more authoritarian folk. We are in a 35-8 vibration when this happens, and that's about having healthy boundaries. This cycle began when Mars and Neptune conjoined. This is part of a synodic cycle that occurred on May 18th, 2022. This is a 2-year cycle. Any cycle with Mars is a 2-year cycle. The conjunction occurred at 25 degrees of Pisces. On the 18th, a religious organization succeeds in overcoming the corrupting influence of perverted practices and materialized ideals. This is a true healing, wouldn't you say? Neptune at 25 degrees of Pisces trines Mars at 25 degrees of Scorpio. So now, of course, Neptune has moved from the point where it was when we had this conjunction, but it moves so slowly and goes back and forth that it's found its way back to the same spot. So the only image that we need to look at now, right, is because we've looked at the initial conjunction, which is where Neptune still is. Now we look to what is Mars doing, right? What is Mars saying here? And Mars is at 25 degrees of Scorpio. It says an X-ray photograph, the capacity to acquire a knowledge of structural factors in all existence. So this is sort of seeing the underpinnings of the structures of power, really. And what I want to point out is that this trine is a 240-degree trine. It has the flavor of Sagittarius. It's a disseminating trine. So this information and this what's happening is going to be seen in society. This is a shift in society. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Catholic Church, because I know that the Pope is probably, I know he's under a lot of pressure. And I know there are people who don't like him because he's too liberal. He's too left, too much of a lefty. He cares too much about the people. He's actually too much like Jesus for most of the people in the church who are more interested in being in charge than in being like Jesus, walking in the shadow of Jesus, like Cash Peters says, right? But he has a certain limited time. He is kind of old and he's sickly and all the rest. And I think he's going to really try to push something before he goes back to Jesus and actually says, I did my best. I did my best. I like him. He reminds me of my dad. Of course, my father's name was Frank. So plus he looks like my dad and he's got such a heartfelt, sweet and loving energy. And let me tell you, I grew up Catholic. Except for John the 23rd and John Paul the First, who they probably murdered because he was like this guy. And then they put the Polish guy in, who is kind of very traditional, as Polish Catholics are known to be. Yeah, interesting. Just all very interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's look at the sun now. So now we have the sun trine Neptune. And we're in the same thing with the same symbols, right? So we're bringing this X-ray vision to how to overcome corrupting influences in large institutions. This is going to be a real revelation, guys, a real revelation. And we can see the trine right here. This is the US. It's the 11th house and the 3rd house. Hopefully we can get some aid packages passed. It is also the date that the government is scheduled to shut down if they can't do the budget thing, or if they can't do the continuing, whatever that is. So we'll see what happens with this. This is going to be very interesting. There could also be some sort of, there could be the energy of what is that called? Hey, Michael, what do you call it when like somebody finds out that their wife was cheating on them, or what is that called? I can't think of the word. It's just like anything terrible, like, oh, he, likes little boys or something. You know what I'm saying? There's a word. I'll think of the word. It'll come to me. Let's go on to the next thing. Saturday, the 18th. We have the sun make a conjunction to Mars. This was the conjunction I was talking about on Biden's chart. This is the start of a 2-year cycle. As I said on the Tree of Life, this is the Mars is in Gebura, the sun is in Tippereth, and the path between them is the path for cosmic justice. So there's always some sort of there's always some sort of something that's going to initiate a spiritual crisis, and then we have to resolve it, and with karma and the like. Okay, so the Sun Mars cycle describes the utilization of energy in pursuit of a life purpose. And so the 26 degrees of still can't think of the word. The 26 degrees of Scorpio, American Indians making camp after moving into a new territory. The ability to adjust swiftly to a new situation by tuning into its requirements. He who lives in harmony with nature, moving on as new needs arise, finds himself intuitively at home everywhere. He does not make demands upon life, for he has identified himself as with the great rhythms of the biosphere, and he functions at peace with what they produce. This is the message of the American Indian culture, which European invaders so wantonly and meaninglessly destroyed nearly everywhere. Western man has lost its faith in life because he wants to dominate and enslave manifestations. The difference between the masculine way of power and the feminine way of power is the masculine way dominates and the feminine goes with the flow. And we need both of those energies, but because it's been so overly masculinized in its way, in its patriarchal way, that the flow is mostly a flow of tears, blood, sweat, and tears, as it were. And it's time to reorient ourselves and be in a more balanced place with this. And of course, with Pluto going into Aquarius, that's going to happen anyway. We're at the end. This is the end of the patriarchy, guys. And it's not, the authoritarian. It's not going to go down without a fight. But we do have to know that there is power in our ability to align with each other, because there's no way that they can overtake the power of the people unless the people give it to them. One of the interesting things about this particular conjunction is that this conjunction is sextile Pluto and the moon. It is trine Neptune, and it is opposing Uranus. There are 3 transpersonal planets that we work with. There are others, but the majority: Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, all ambassadors of the galaxy, all lining with this new Sun-Mars conjunction at 26 degrees of Scorpio. And our president has his sun and Venus there. I'm trying to think I think his sun is at 20. I think it's definitely his Venus. And Venus is your ability to make concessions, to agree, to relate. He really is a avatar and a portal for the old ways to move through and out, and the new to come in. And the new to come in. Keywords: the messages of peaceful adaptation to nature, and through adaptation, the efficient functioning in all life situations. It's time to get over all these old, ancient hatreds and really look at what they are, really see what's going on here. And we're so reactive, and everybody jumps. It's either if you're against me, they're talking about the axis of evil again. It's ridiculous. That's over. That's over. We tried that, didn't work. Didn't work. First in 2000s. Oh, we're in the new millennium. What's going to happen? We're in a two. Two, you have to be aware of the other person. And we pretty much think everybody's against us, right? We're kind of narcissistic in that. We've had the 1900s were about one, right? The 2000s are about two. So it's in the 2000s that we have to learn how to get along with each other. Because in the ones, it was all the me first, right? Now it's me too. Now it's me too. Meaning me also. You and me also together too. Yes, me too. Okay. I still can't think of that word. Scandal. So scandal. So we might see a scandal this week as well with all this Mars, Mars, Scorpio, Sun, Neptune, scandal, scandal, scandal. So there might be some sort of Scorpio sexual scandal that comes up as well. So we'll see what that's about. All right, I think that's it. Let me just make sure. Yep. And then we'll look at next week. The next week. So I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you would. I am starting something new in the beginning of the year. I do, as it stands now, I do these every week, and I do portal readings, and every morning doing the astrology. I do some in the news segments. I put a lot of energy and a lot of stuff out for you to enjoy. And for the most part, it's free. I really need to figure out how to do this and support myself. So I am going to be doing a little less free stuff and a little more specifically for my patrons. I do have a Patreon channel, and they get everything that you guys get with a few things. I have some uh, things that I want to talk about that I feel like I can't talk freely on YouTube as just like getting paid through advertisements. And so I feel like I really need to find a space where I can have a little bit more freedom of speech without worrying about bothering people, who sell laundry detergent or whatever, uh, solar panels, whatever they're selling, So I am going to be doing things a little bit differently, but not until January. And I'm very excited about the offerings that I'm going to be doing. Plus, I just want to announce that I am doing a beginner's astrology part 2. It's going to be on Monday nights. It's a 6-week course, and it's on 6 consecutive Mondays. Now, this is for people who understand the signs, the planets, the houses, and for the most part, the aspects. But those are always a little bit more difficult, and they take a little bit more time to master. So you don't have to be a master of aspects. But if you do know your signs and you do know your planets and you kind of know your houses, the second part, we're going to be looking at the nodes of the moon. We're going to be looking at the karmic axis and Pluto. And if we have time, we'll also look at some of the asteroids, the feminine asteroids that I work with. And that will be 6 weeks. And that is going to start, I believe, the 3rd week of November, that Monday. Oh, that would be the Monday that this is the first Monday, right? Wow. Okay. Well, this is the week it's going to start. So if you're interested in that, there is a link below. You can click on it. It's a 6-week class. Don't worry about the time frame. You just need to, you can click on that and purchase the class. And if you can't make the class, you can always, I send the class out. Like after the class, I send the video out to all the people in the class, and then you have the class for posterity. You just have to download it from the cloud. All right, so that's what I want to say. Like and subscribe. Become a patron if you'd like. If you can, it'd be greatly appreciated. The more support I can get, the more I can give. And I like that idea. All right, guys, take care. Much love. Namaste. Ciao.